This ticket's fake. The flight attendant's voice was sharp, confident, the kind of tone used when authority feels righteous. Ava Robinson froze mid-step, one hand still on the handle of her beige suitcase. Her eyes flicked down at the torn boarding pass, then up at the woman in the blue uniform who had just ripped it. Around them, the terminal held its breath. Passengers paused. A man in glasses frowned, whispering, "Guess she tried her luck." Two women glanced at each other, lips curling in disbelief. Someone raised a phone, recording already. Ava's pulse didn't rise. Her jaw tightened, but her voice didn't move. "Run my name." The attendant smirked, tilting her chin. "We already did. Try another story." Her badge read Nicole H., senior crew lead. The name glinted beneath the fluorescent light. Behind Ava, the loudspeaker droned flight updates no one was listening to. The air felt charged like the moment before lightning hits. Nicole leaned in, lowering her tone just enough for everyone to still hear. "People like you don't fly first class. Not dressed like that." The words hit harder than the tear. A hush rippled through the boarding line. Judgment, quiet and familiar, filled the space between them. Ava blinked once, slowly, deliberately. Her cream-colored suit caught the terminal light, soft yet commanding. No designer logos, no entourage, just quiet certainty. She had come alone for a reason. Every few months she tested her own airline disguised as an ordinary traveler. Today's route, Sky Unity Flight 226 to New York. Today's test still failing. Nicole waved for backup, gesturing to a nearby agent. Security on standby. The man nodded, already reaching for his radio. A woman further down the line whispered, "This is getting ugly." Ava's grip on the suitcase tightened. She'd seen this movie before, different airports, same script. Her voice, when it came, was calm as glass. "You're making a mistake." Nicole laughed softly. "I don't think so." Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Ava Robinson. She took one step closer, eyes steady. "You said this ticket's fake." Nicole folded her arms. "Exactly." Ava nodded once. "Then maybe you should ask who printed it." For a moment, silence. The crowd felt the shift, tiny but real. Somewhere in the back, a trainee flight attendant named Lena looked up from her tablet, her brow furrowing at what she saw. A name flickered across her screen. A. Robinson, verified owner. She blinked, unsure if she'd just seen the spark that would burn the entire gate down. The ping echoed across a dozen unseen screens. In a distant office tower, a small red alert blinked beside the name Gate A17, incident logged. But inside the terminal, no one knew yet, not even Nicole. She stood frozen for a beat, lips parting as if to speak but unsure what to say. Protocol, what she muttered under her breath. Ava didn't answer. She simply adjusted the strap of her bag and looked around the waiting area. Every pair of eyes was on her now, silent, waiting, recording. Lena's pulse hammered. She'd only been with Sky Unity 6 weeks. She knew the internal codes, the voice patterns used by corporate officers, and she'd just heard one. Maya, initiate review protocol 7. No one outside headquarters should even know those words. She hesitated, then whispered Nicole. "I think you should stop." Nicole turned sharply, her composure cracking. "Excuse me, I saw the name Robinson in the system before it disappeared." And she, enough Nicole, barked. "You're new, don't embarrass yourself." The passengers flinched at the sudden outburst. A baby cried in the distance, the kind of small human sound that makes humiliation louder. Ava didn't move. Her silence pressed against the walls, calm, unshakable. It wasn't defiance, it was containment, the way a storm sits on the horizon before it hits. A man near the window phone, halfway raised, said quietly, "She's not doing anything wrong." Nicole heard it and spun. "Sir, please stay out of this." But more people were watching now. A young Latina mother whispered, "That's the owner, isn't it?" The woman from the news. Her husband frowned. Not sure, but the seed had been planted. Lena's eyes darted to her tablet again. The system refreshed, and for half a second she saw it. Access override pending HQ verification. That wasn't normal. That was executive access. She felt her mouth go dry. "Miss Robinson," she said softly, testing the name. Ava turned, finally acknowledging her. Their eyes met. It was enough. Lena understood. Nicole, oblivious, was already waving at 2 airport security officers approaching from the corridor. "Over here." She's refusing instructions. One of them, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped forward. Ma'am, what's the issue? Nicole replied, quickly rehearsed. She presented a fraudulent ticket and is causing a disturbance. The officer looked at Ava, her stillness, her poise, her calm that felt out of place in the chaos. Miss, can I see some ID? Ava handed it over without a word. The officer studied it. Ava Robinson, Chicago, Illinois. He blinked confused, glancing at Nicole. This says valid. Nicole snatched it back. Fake IDs are easy these days. The murmur of the crowd swelled. Someone whispered, "That's over the line." Another voice answered, "They always think we're faking." Lena took a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Ma'am," she said louder now, her voice shaking but firm, "that's a real ticket. And her name was in the system before you deleted it." Nicole's head snapped toward her eyes, blazing. "What did you just say?" "I said you deleted it," Lena replied. "It was right there. A. Robinson, verified owner." Then it vanished. Gasps spread through the boarding area. Phones lifted higher. The officer's tone changed. "Verified owner," he repeated. Nicole scoffed. "She's making things up." Ava finally spoke, quiet but commanding. "No, she's telling the truth." The crowd leaned in. Every sound, the beeping scanners, the distant PA system faded into nothing. Ava's voice filled the space. "You wanted verification. You're about to get it." She reached for her phone again, swiped once, and said calmly, "Maya, confirm gate transmission." A beat later, a woman's voice answered through the speaker, crisp, professional. "Gate. A 17 feed active. Compliance review live." Nicole's face drained of color. The officer stepped back, eyes wide. "Wait. Did she say compliance review?" Ava nodded slowly. "Yes. And it's recording every word you just heard." A hush fell over the crowd, that kind of silence that comes right before applause when justice starts to take shape. The moment hung in the air, heavy, electric, inevitable. Nicole blinked rapidly, her confidence slipping through her fingers. "This is ridiculous," she said, forcing a brittle laugh. "You can't just start recording an entire gate." Ava didn't blink. "I didn't start it," she said evenly. "The system did," the crowd whispered. The words compliance review echoed like a rumor turning into prophecy. Nicole gestured to the officers again, desperate to reclaim her stage. "Remove her. Now." The taller officer hesitated. "Ma'am, maybe we should," I said, "remove her." Nicole's voice cracked mid-sentence, echoing across the boarding area. The younger officer shifted uneasily, muttering, "She hasn't done anything." That was the first fissure, the sound of authority beginning to fracture. Ava stayed perfectly still. Only her eyes moved, scanning faces, capturing every emotion in the crowd, confusion, anger, recognition. She didn't need to speak. Her stillness did the talking. Nicole, feeling the control slip, reached out and grabbed Ava's arm. The contact was small, a hand, a reflex, but it detonated the entire room. Gasps exploded from the passengers. "Don't touch her," someone shouted. Lena froze, her tablet still in her hands, voice trembling. "You can't do that," Ava didn't pull away. She just looked down at the hand, gripping her sleeve, then back up into Nicole's face. Calm. Dead calm. "You just crossed the line," she said softly. The tone wasn't loud, but it carried clear as a command through a storm. For a split second, no one moved. Then slowly, Ava's gaze drifted not to Nicole, not to the officers, but inward. Flash. Charlotte, North Carolina. She was 19. She'd boarded a flight in an old gray hoodie after working 2 shifts at the diner. The attendant had smiled at her ticket, then said, "This seat's taken. Try coach." Ava had nodded, stepped back, and sat on the floor of the terminal until morning. That night, she decided she'd never ask permission to belong again. The memory faded. The present returned sharper, colder. She looked around the gate, saw faces, women, men, travelers, parents watching, waiting to see whether silence could still mean power. Nicole's voice broke the tension. "I don't care what game you're playing, you're not flying today," Ava replied. "You're right about that." Nicole smirked, misreading the calm. "Good. Then step aside." Ava tilted her head slightly. "Because after this, you won't be flying either." The line hit like thunder. Phones went up. People whispered. "Did she just say?" Lena took a breath, her fear turning to resolve. She turned toward the officers. "She's the CEO. Check your system." Nicole snapped. "She's lying." But the taller officer had already lifted his radio. "Control confirms Sky Unity Holdings leadership identity. Passenger name Robinson Ava." Static. Then a pause. Then a voice over the line. "Copy that. Confirmed. Executive level ID." Nicole's face drained of color. The younger officer lowered his gaze, murmuring, "Ma'am, we need to step back." Lena's voice shook but grew louder. She wasn't the one causing trouble. You were. The crowd shifted energy, flipping like a current reversing. Someone clapped once, then stopped uncertain. Ava turned toward Nicole. You ripped up my ticket. You touched me. You called me a fraud. Nicole tried to speak, but her throat was tight. I didn't know. Ava nodded slightly. That's the problem. The crowd fell completely silent again. Even the PA system seemed to wait. Ava lifted her phone once more. Maya, she said calmly. Log incident, timestamp, physical contact, confirmed. Maya's voice came through crystal clear, logged. Transmission stable. Corporate counsel notified. Nicole took a shaky step back. This can't be happening. Ava's gaze didn't waver. It already is. And as she spoke, Lena's screen flickered again, a new message glowing across it in bold red Protocol 7 escalation immediate on-site audit. The clock on the wall ticked once. The gate door light switched from green to amber, frozen mid-transition, like the world itself was waiting for the verdict. The amber light over gate A17 pulsed once, like the heartbeat of something waking up. A hush settled across the terminal. Even the PA announcer seemed to fall silent, as if the building itself knew what was about to unfold. Nicole stepped back, blinking fast. This isn't real, she said, her voice trembling under its own disbelief. You're bluffing. Some kind of stunt. Ava's reply came like a steady note of piano through the tension. No bluff, just accountability. She tapped her phone again. The screen glowed white, reflecting in her eyes. Headquarters, she said softly, confirm direct feed. A pause, then Maya's voice returned calm and professional. Feed confirmed. Legal and PR are live on channel. The crowd murmured. A man near the window whispered. Wait, did she just say legal? Another voice answered. Bro, this is happening in real time. Nicole's breathing quickened. She turned to the officers again. Do something. You can't let her record all this. The taller officer's tone changed completely now. Ma'am, I think we need to let her. It's internal company business. Nicole's mouth opened, then closed her authority, dissolving like sand through fingers. Ava lowered her phone, meeting Nicole's eyes. You wanted verification, she said. Now everyone has it. She turned slightly toward the crowd, not for spectacle, but for truth. For years, she said evenly, I've flown through airports just like this one. Every time someone decided what I could afford, what I could wear where I belonged. She paused, her gaze soft but unwavering. I built Sky Unity so people like that would learn to see differently. The words weren't loud, but they filled every inch of the gate. Lena's eyes glistened. She stepped forward, voice steady for the first time. She's not lying. I saw her name. I saw the system lock her out. A ripple of affirmation moved through the passengers. Someone muttered, good for her. Another whispered. Finally, someone saying it. Nicole shook her head like a person trying to wake from a bad dream. This is insane. You can't just hijack a gate, Ava smiled faintly. No, Nicole, you hijacked the dignity of a passenger. I'm just landing it safely. Phones lifted higher. The crowd pressed closer, drawn by the calm gravity of her words. A voice from the intercom, distant but unmistakable, broke through attention gate. A 17 staff. All personnel are to remain in position. Corporate oversight team en route. Nicole's jaw dropped. They're sending oversight, Lena looked up from her screen. That means HQ saw the feed. The officers exchanged glances, one of them even took a quiet step back from Nicole. Ava turned slightly, her voice low enough to feel intimate but loud enough for everyone to hear, you called me a fraud in the company I own. The sentence hit like a gavel strike. The businessman from earlier exhaled sharply. Damn. Ava didn't break eye contact. You tore my ticket, she continued. But you tore more than paper. You tore what you thought was my place in this room. That's why this moment is important not for me, but for every person who's ever been told they don't belong. Her tone didn't rise. It deepened, rich, controlled final. Nicole tried to speak again, but her voice wavered. I didn't mean intent, Ava interrupted gently, doesn't erase impact. Silence. Pure, heavy silence. The amber gate light turned red, full halt. The boarding process had officially stopped. From Ava's phone came Maya's voice once more, almost ceremonial, audit complete. Awaiting executive decision. Nicole's hand trembled at her side. Executive decision, she whispered. Ava nodded once. Yes, and I'm here to make it. She stepped closer, her reflection merging with Nicole's in the glass wall behind the counter. The symbolism was unmissable, power and prejudice staring back at each other, equal for the first time. Then Ava spoke softly, decisively. Maya, prepare notice for termination review. Include gate footage officer statements and witness accounts. Maya's reply came crisp and instant. Notice prepared. Pending your authorization. Ava glanced at the crowd. They deserve to see how real accountability looks. Nicole's lips trembled. You wouldn't. Ava's eyes steadied on her. I would. Because this isn't about revenge, it's about correction. The PA system crackled again, the voice overhead repeating corporate oversight arriving at gate A17. Every passenger turned their head toward the sound of footsteps coming down the corridor, deliberate, measured, inevitable. And for the first time, Nicole understood that the flight she'd tried to block was about to take off without her. The footsteps drew closer, 3 figures in navy suits moving through the terminal with purpose. Their badges caught the light, reflecting silver and authority. The crowd parted as they approached like the tide splitting around a rock. Nicole stiffened. They can't be here already, she whispered. They're based in Chicago. Ava's calm voice cut through. Sky Unity owns jets. The suits stopped at the gate. The one in front, a woman in her 50s with braided gray hair and the poise of command, stepped forward. I'm Carla Bennett, Chief Operations Officer, she announced. Who initiated Protocol 7? Ava raised her hand. I did. Carla blinked once. Then her entire expression shifted from confusion to reverence. Madam Robinson. She straightened immediately. Ma'am, we received the full feed. Do you wish to continue live? Ava nodded. They deserve to see it through. A gasp moved through the onlookers, a collective realization rippling through the air. The whispers turned to fragments of sentences. She is the owner. No way. Wait, the airline's named Sky Unity Robinson. Nicole's legs weakened slightly. Her lips parted, but no words came out. You're the Ava Robinson. Ava's reply was simple, almost merciful. The one whose ticket you ripped. Carla turned toward Nicole and the other gate staff. Effective immediately, all operations at gate A17 are frozen. Security ensure footage is preserved. The taller officer nodded. Already done. The COO faced Ava again. Ma'am, we have HR and legal standing by for instructions. Ava looked at Nicole not with rage, but with an almost painful steadiness. I don't want humiliation, she said quietly. I want accountability. That's how we build better crews. Carla nodded gravely. Understood. She raised her radio. Begin formal termination review. Nicole stumbled backward. You can't just please, it was a misunderstanding. Ava's eyes softened for a heartbeat, then hardened again. You didn't misunderstand. You assumed. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the overhead lights. Ava took a slow step forward, closing the distance between them. You saw my clothes, not my character. You saw my skin, not my station. She stopped an arm's length away. You thought authority was about who you could talk down to. It's not. It's about who you lift up. The crowd's eyes glistened. A woman near the back whispered, Say that again. Ava looked past Nicole now to Lena, who still clutched her tablet like a lifeline. You spoke when it wasn't safe, Ava said. That's leadership. Lena blinked back tears. I just told the truth. And that, Ava replied, is what this company was built for. Carla stepped closer, tablet in hand. Ma'am, do you wish to finalize disciplinary action? Ava hesitated, then turned to the crowd. What you all witnessed today isn't about one woman being rude. It's about a system that still decides who looks qualified to belong in first class. She turned back to Carla. Suspend them pending retraining, not dismissal. I don't fire people for being blind, I teach them to see. Nicole's tears finally broke through, quiet, disbelieving. You're not firing me. Ava shook her head. No. You'll report to diversity and operations training starting Monday. But your position here, she paused, depends on how you treat the next person who looks like me. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Someone clapped once, then another followed until the sound swelled, not loud but honest. Ava turned to Carla. Carla, resume gate operations. Yes, ma'am. The overhead speaker chimed. Sky Unity Flight 226 to New York, boarding to resume. Passengers began moving again, quiet but visibly changed. Nicole stepped aside, wiping her eyes. Lena approached Ava, voice barely above a whisper. Ma'am, thank you. Ava smiled gently. You'll make a fine leader someday. As she turned toward the gate, the crowd parted again, this time not out of fear but respect. Nicole watched her walk past shoulders, straight steps measured. Every ounce of arrogance drained from her face, replaced by something humbler reflection. Ava paused at the jet bridge door and looked back one last time. Let this be your training flight, she said softly. Lesson 1, never mistake silence for weakness. Then she walked through the gate, and for the first time that day, the air inside gate, a 17 felt lighter, freer almost, healed. The jet bridge door slid shut behind Ava with a slow hydraulic hiss, a sound that felt like punctuation. Inside the gate, silence remained suspended in the air, thick as fog after thunder. Then came the aftershocks. Nicole's knees gave out, and she sank onto the nearest chair. Her perfect posture collapsed, shoulders folding and eyes fixed on the floor where the torn ticket still lay two halves of a mistake she couldn't take back. Lena crouched to pick up the pieces. She held them together carefully, aligning the tear like she could somehow stitch time. "Don't worry," she whispered. "Without looking up, we'll make this right." Nicole blinked, her voice hoarse. "You really think she meant what she said, that she'll give me another chance?" Lena nodded. She meant every word. At the counter, Carla Bennett composed as ever turned to the security officers. "Ensure this footage is archived for internal training." The taller one nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Already mirrored to HQ servers." Passengers began murmuring again, but the tone had shifted, no longer gossip, just awe. That was powerful. She didn't even raise her voice. She just flipped the whole script. A middle-aged man in a business suit approached Nicole carefully. "Miss, I hope you learned something from this, because the rest of us just did." Nicole managed a nod. "I will," she whispered, eyes glassy. "I promise I will." Behind her, Lena looked at the glass wall separating the gate from the runway. The reflection of Ava boarding shimmered there, a faint silhouette framed by daylight and jet engines. It didn't look like power. It looked like peace. Carla's phone buzzed. She stepped aside to answer. "Yes, she's boarding now. No, we're not pressing termination. Yes, retraining for the entire staff at this terminal." She hung up, exhaled deeply, and glanced toward Lena. "You did good today." Lena shook her head. "I just didn't want to stay silent." "That's how change starts," Carla said, one voice refusing to be quiet. At that moment, Nicole stood again, straightened her uniform, and looked at the same reflection Lena had been staring at. "I thought power was loud," she murmured. "But it's quiet." Carla's gaze softened. "Real power always is." The boarding announcement echoed again, crisp and measured. "Final call for Sky Unity Flight 226 to New York. All passengers, please proceed." Through the glass, they saw Ava pause at the top of the jet bridge stairs, looking out toward the tarmac. Her figure was small against the sweep of light, one woman framed by the world she built. Lena found herself speaking before thinking, "That's her plane, isn't it?" Carla smiled faintly. "Every Sky Unity aircraft is hers." The young trainee's heart swelled, not with envy, but with possibility. Nicole reached out, touching Lena's sleeve lightly. "Thank you for not backing down." Lena looked at her surprised. "I just told the truth." Nicole nodded. "Next time I'll be the one who speaks up." Carla glanced at her watch, then back at the team. "Gate A-17's closed for now. Everyone take 10 minutes. Reflect." No one argued. As passengers trickled away, a teenage girl lingered near the counter. She turned to Nicole and said shyly, "I was recording, but I'm not posting it. Not everything needs to go viral." Nicole blinked, gratitude mixed with shame. "Thank you." The girl smiled. "I just wanted you to know I'm black, too. And watching her handle you like that, it didn't make me angry. It made me proud." Nicole's throat tightened. "Yeah," she whispered. "It should." Through the window, the engines of Flight 226 roared to life. The rumble filled the terminal like a heartbeat returning to rhythm. Lena whispered, "She's taking off." Carla replied quietly, "No. She's ascending and taking us with her." They all stood there for a long moment, watching the jet roll down the runway. The sunlight flared across the glass, golden, forgiving. And when the plane finally lifted, silent grace cutting through the clouds, Nicole closed her eyes, letting a tear slip free. It wasn't regret anymore. It was awakening. From 30,000 feet above the clouds, the city below was only light scattered and small like memories that had lost their power to wound. Ava sat by the window of her private suite in the front of Flight 226, the hum of the engine steady as breath. The world outside was soft, white, and endless. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to exhale. Maya's voice came softly through her earpiece. "Ma'am, live review concluded. Press already has a statement from PR waiting. Would you like to approve it?" Ava gazed at the clouds, eyes distant but focused. "Read it." Maya began. "Sky Unity Airlines reaffirms its zero-tolerance policy against discrimination." The company will undergo internal reform, Ava interrupted gently. No. That sounds like every other company that says sorry but doesn't change. Rewrite it. Of course. What message do you want to send? Maya asked. Ava looked out the window again. The clouds stretched like a clean slate. Tell them this. Respect is not a policy. It's the starting altitude. There was a pause on the line, a quiet awe. Then Maya said softly, "That's perfect." Ava smiled faintly. "Release it." She slipped out the earpiece and folded her hands in her lap. Around her, the flight attendants moved with a reverence that hadn't existed an hour ago. No nervous glances, no tension, only calm efficiency, the quiet restoration of order. A young attendant, barely older than Lena, approached with a glass of water. Her voice trembled slightly. "Miss Robinson, I just wanted to say thank you for what you did." Ava looked up, kind but firm. "For standing up. For staying calm," the attendant said. "You could have screamed. You didn't." Ava nodded once. Screaming changes the volume. Calm changes the frequency. The attendant smiled, tears threatening. "Yes, ma'am." She walked away, lighter, shoulders straighter. Ava turned her attention back to the window. The horizon ahead shimmered like the edge of something new. Down below in the terminal she'd just left, Carla Bennett was finishing her own statement to the staff. Her voice carried through the PA today. Sky Unity learned that equality isn't a department. It's a decision we make every day we wear this uniform. The employees listened, even Nicole, who stood near the back, eyes red but open. Lena handed her a copy of the internal memo Ava had drafted moments earlier. The heading read, Protocol 7, Reformation Not Retaliation. Below it, one line in Ava's handwriting, "We don't fire mistakes, we educate them." Nicole pressed the paper to her chest. She didn't deserve forgiveness yet, but she understood what it looked like. Back in the air, Ava leaned her head against the glass. The clouds rolled like waves beneath her, endless and unjudging. She thought about the young woman she'd been at 19, sitting alone in a terminal after being told she didn't belong. That same girl had just rewritten the rules for an entire industry. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Maya trending Hasson worldwide. "The world is calling you the silent CEO." Ava smiled. "Let them," she murmured. Silence speaks loud enough when the world finally listens. The captain's voice broke through the cabin speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached cruising altitude. On behalf of Sky Unity Airlines and our CEO, Miss Ava Robinson, thank you for flying with us." Passengers clapped softly. The sound was faint but sincere, like gratitude finding its voice. Ava's reflection in the window caught the last glint of sunset gold against the glass. She whispered to herself words no one else could hear. "I didn't raise my voice. I raised the standard." Outside, the plane sliced clean through the horizon, the sky ahead burning in shades of orange and silver, the color of rebirth. Below gate, a 17 grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely, leaving only one truth in its wake. Power doesn't shout, it ascends. By the time Flight 226 landed in New York, the story had already outrun the plane. Screens glowed in terminals across the country. Black CEO confronts discrimination at her own airline and responds with grace. Clips from passengers' phones filled the feeds. Some shaky, some clear, all unmistakable the moment Nicole's hand. "You just ripped the ticket of the woman W." In every corner of the internet reactions poured in, some angry, some proud. But that could have. At JFK's private arrival gate, Ava stepped off the jet, greeted by the chill of evening air and a waiting line of executives. They didn't rush her. They stood with quiet respect. Carla was already there, coat draped neatly over one-arm eyes. "Welcome home," she said. Ava gave a faint smile. Carla nodded. The board's unanimous. They've approved full diversity retraining across all global terminals. And Maya saw Ava walked beside her down the corridor, the hum of city life faint through the glass. "Moved isn't enough," she said softly. "Let's make sure they understand why." Carla glanced sideways. "You think it'll last, the change?" Ava stopped, turned toward the window. The skyline G. She adjusted her coat-ready tee. Back in Seattle, the gate where it all began sat empty. The cleaning crew moved quietly, wiping counters, emptying bins. The torn pieces of Ava's ticket had been collected and placed in an envelope marked training materials. Lena stood there after her shift ended, watching the last passengers disappear into the night. Her supervisor had offered her, she whispered to herself. She didn't yell, and she changed everything. Nicole approached from behind, slower than usual, her steps cautious. Lena turned. Nicole looked smaller somehow. No makeup, no clipped tone, just a woman holding a folded note. I wrote her, Nicole said, quietly. An apology letter. I don't expect a reply. Lena smiled gently. Maybe that's not the point. Nicole nodded. Yeah, maybe not. They both looked at the reflection in the glass again, two women standing where humiliation had turned into awakening. Nicole took a deep breath. You know, I joined this job because I wanted to travel, but now I think I just want to help people feel like they belong. That's a good start, Lena said. Outside, a Sky Unity jet rose into the night, its lights blinking steady and sure. In New York, Ava sat alone in her office, the skyline glowing beyond her floor-to-ceiling windows. The world had grown quiet again, but the story had left its mark. Her assistant entered softly. Ma'am, the media's calling this the Gate a 17 moment. They want your comment for morning shows. Ava looked up from her tablet. Tell them. My comment's already been made. The assistant hesitated. Which one? Ava smiled faintly. The one in silence. The woman nodded and left. Ava turned back to the window, her reflection merging with the city's light. She thought about the 19-year-old version of herself again, the girl in the hoodie, the one they told didn't belong. Somewhere out there, that girl was still sitting in a terminal in someone else's skin, waiting to be seen. Ava whispered under her breath, as if sending the words across every airport in the world. You belong. Always. She closed her eyes for a moment, the hum of the city blending with the soft echo of engines in her memory. Justice hadn't shouted. It had whispered, and the world had listened. Ava reached for the file on her desk labeled Protocol 7, the Robinson Reform, then signed her name across the bottom. The pen left a single line of ink, deliberate final. Outside, the city pulsed with light. Above it, another plane crossed the sky, silver against the dark, carrying somewhere within it another version of the same story waiting to be rewritten. And as Ava watched it disappear into the horizon, her lips curved into the quietest smile. Because dignity once risen never lands again. 3 weeks later, airports didn't feel the same. At first it was subtle, an attendant double-checking her tone before addressing a passenger, a supervisor, lingering longer to listen before deciding. But the air had changed. Gate A. 17 wasn't just a place anymore. It was a symbol. Across terminals from Atlanta to Johannesburg, screens played Sky Unity's new internal training film, The Gate We All Stand At. The footage didn't show Ava's face, only her voice. Calm, even unmistakable. Power isn't proven by who you command. It's revealed by who you respect. Employees watched in silence. Many cried quietly. Some took notes. Others simply nodded as if they'd been waiting for someone to say those words aloud. In one training room, Lena stood at the front, now wearing a new badge, crew development lead. Her voice was stronger, anchored by experience. We all saw what happened that day, she said. But what matters now is what we do when no one's filming. She clicked the remote, showing a freeze frame of Ava walking toward the plane. This, Lena continued, is how you carry dignity steady, not loud. From the back row, a young recruit raised his hand. Do you think, Miss? Robinson knew it would go viral, Lena smiled faintly. No, she didn't act for the camera. The camera found her because truth doesn't hide. The class murmured in agreement. For the first time, the idea of accountability felt less like punishment and more like pride.